so great to be back with you this week. As you can probably tell, it is so windy outside, so we're going to have to do the video a little bit differently this week, but we hope you still enjoy it and that it still blesses you guys. Over the next couple of weeks, we thought it would be great to spend a bit of time looking at some key characters from the Bible and see what we can learn from them today. We're going to kick it off with Joseph, famously remembered probably for his multicoloured coat, but there's so much more to the story that we want to have a look at over the next 2 weeks.
But first, we wanted to start by seeing where Joseph fits into God's big story. Joseph is one of Jacob's 12 sons. Jacob, also known as Israel, is one of Isaac's sons. Isaac was the son of Abraham. God made a promise to Abraham that he would make his family as numerous as the stars in the sky. He promised him a son, even in his and his wife Sarah's old age. They had to wait a long time until this promise was fulfilled. They made some mistakes and learned some lessons along the way, but God was faithful and gave Abraham a son. It's a brilliant story of great faith and the reality of human mistakes and how God works amazingly through both. Have a read of it if you get a chance. Joseph and his 11 brothers became the 12 tribes of Israel, God's chosen and special people.
We're going to be splitting this story over the next 2 weeks under the main theme of when things don't go as expected, God is still working and preparing us for what is to come. So why don't you jump into today's part of the story, which is found in Genesis 37 and 39. So you may prefer to watch one of the animated versions included in the description, or read from a story such as the Jesus Storybook Bible.
Joseph thought his life was going somewhere. He had dreams about how God was going to raise him up as a great leader, where all his brothers would bow before him. He was his father's favourite son. He got special treatment and gifts, like his amazing decorative cloak. What ends up happening to Joseph is completely outside of his control. His life is suddenly flung in a very different direction to what he was expecting.
We too may be able to relate to this feeling of thinking we know what's coming next, how life's going to turn out, then suddenly lockdown, schools are closed, exams cancelled, churches online. We're suddenly swept up and taken to a completely different way of doing life from what we have ever known before.
Thankfully, we are not in as bad a position as Joseph was. Hopefully no one has dug a pit and thrown you into it recently. We can still learn a lot from this story about how God may be working in our lives during this time of lockdown. So today we're going to be focusing on this main point. At no stage in the story does God abandon Joseph, stop protecting him, stop guarding over him, or blessing him. In fact, at every point of what seems like it's going to be disaster, it says the Lord was with Joseph.
Joseph goes from a position of great security and feeling of power through the dreams that he has to utter helplessness and dependence. He's his father's most loved son. He receives special gifts, and not only that, he has amazing dreams that speak of a great future. He's young, we're told 17, so life is looking good for Joseph. But suddenly, life takes a very different and unexpected turn for Joseph. His brothers sell him as a slave to a far-off land. Yet during this time of great uncertainty, God is still with Joseph. Although his brothers sold him as a slave, because God blesses Joseph, he ends up one of the best treated slaves ever with great privileges.
Joseph ends up becoming the chief guy in charge for one of Pharaoh's chief officials, Potiphar. Potiphar recognises how the Lord blesses Joseph, so he entrusts him with the management and organisation of everything. Potiphar's wife is also out to get Joseph. She tries to tempt him and trap him into doing something wrong. But Joseph remains true, faithful and obedient to God. But what does this result in? False accusation and imprisonment. Yet even in prison, God blesses Joseph, for he is still with him. In Genesis 39, verses 20 to 22, it says that while Joseph was in prison, the Lord was with him. He showed him kindness and granted him favour in the eyes of the prison warden. So the prison warden put Joseph in charge of all those held in the prison and was made responsible for all that was done there.
Sometimes when we choose to follow Jesus and give him our all, some people can be out to try and catch us out and trap us. This might look like false accusations or lies being spoken over us, or someone in school might skit us for our faith, or a friend may mock us for some of the things we choose not to do or say because we follow God. In our story for today, it talks about how Potiphar's wife came daily to Joseph to try and persuade him into doing something wrong. Joseph felt the daily pressures of, as it were, peer pressure to do something wrong. We too can face these kind of pressures when we follow Jesus. Even our friends sometimes will try and pressure us into doing something wrong.
The outcome for us being skittered for our faith, or not giving in to the pressure to do or say something that we know is wrong, may not be the same as Joseph being put into prison. But it can still leave us feeling hurt or betrayed, or a bit cast out, especially if it comes from someone that we trust or love. Yet the best thing for us to do is to always stay true to Jesus, because we actually gain so much more through that. We gain his protection and his blessing no matter what our situation is. In Matthew chapter 10 verses 32, Jesus says that whoever acknowledges him publicly on earth, he will acknowledge before his Father in heaven as well. When we stick up for God's way and stay true to him, we gain so much more.
And Jesus, he knows best out of everyone what it feels like to be betrayed, outcast and mocked. Judas, one of his close friends, betrays him to the cross. He was laughed at, mocked and skittered for what he claimed to be. Yet by remaining true to God's purposes, his will and his way, he made a way for the saving of the whole world, for you and for me, and gained all imaginable power and glory in heaven forever and ever.
At this point in Joseph's life, he must have been really confused. He'd had these great dreams about what life was going to be like, and now it seemed his life could not be further from that reality. He must have been wondering what God was doing. He could have been tempted to focus on the prison aspect of his life, on the restrictions of his freedom, that he had better things to be doing. But we, as the reader on the outside, get to see, wow, God really blessed Joseph in that difficult season.
Lockdown for us might feel like what being thrown into prison and sold into slavery felt like for Joseph. It's something that's happened to us that is completely outside of our control and brought a lot of restrictions to what we can do. It's changed the way of life as we know it. We might have, like Joseph, felt that our life was going in a certain direction, whether that be finishing a significant year in school or just plans that we had for the school holidays and hanging out with our friends, but all of that has changed. It can be tempting during this time of lockdown to focus on all those things that have been taken away from us, such as getting to meet as a church, getting to see our friends, or getting to go to school. But by doing that, we can end up missing out on the blessings that God has for us during this time. For he promises us that just like he was with Joseph through every setback that he faced, so he is with us. Jesus himself says in Matthew 28 verse 20, "Surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." And this is something that we can hold on to during this time.
He has blessings to pour out into our life during this time. When Joseph was in prison or a slave in Potiphar's house, there is constant mention of how the Lord blessed Joseph, and those around him noticed that God was with him. I think it's no coincidence that during this time of lockdown, of restricted freedoms, the song The Blessing, which speaks of God's blessing to us, has emerged and been so widely spread.
We feel like the lyrics of this song really affirm the message for today, and we would encourage you guys to spend some time as a family looking at some of these lyrics and seeing what they say about how the Lord will bless you, be with you, and wants to work through you during this time. We wanted to speak some of these lyrics over your life. The Lord bless you and keep you and cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give you peace. May his favour, his blessing be upon you and 1,000 generations and your family. May his presence go before you and behind you and beside you, all around you. He is with you. In the morning, in the evening, in your rejoicing and your weeping, he is for you. He is for you. And this promise is so true. He is for you, He is with you, He will bless you and your family. And this is where we want to leave it for this week. Next week we'll be looking at how God also used this time to prepare Joseph for what was to come. So we've just got a couple of questions today for you guys to choose from. Is there a time you can relate to where you have felt pressure to do the wrong thing? How did it feel? What type of pressures do you face today with your friends or in school? We can all face these challenges. Ask God to help you like He helped Joseph to stay true to Him and not be pressured into doing wrong. As a family, discuss and brainstorm how you think God has blessed you so far during lockdown. Where have you seen God with you during this time? Maybe use the lyrics from the song The Blessing to pray over your family and friends and over each other.